I've been doing this docent training for the last year at the museum. And one of the things they've been teaching us, it's really, if you step back another step from what they're teaching us, it's a really good yoga practice. They would never use those words, I don't think, but what they are teaching is, in a sense, very much in line with what you might practice in Douglas Brooks's Rajanika yoga style, anyway. Which, in Rajanika, it very much involves thinking, critical thinking. And what they're trying to teach us to do in the docent training when it comes to viewing art in the galleries. Think about yoga in the guru style of yoga, or teaching in general, delivery of knowledge, right, or information. There's, in the old school way, you might say, is someone standing up on a pedestal or a podium or a lectern, delivering the lecture, the information, and everyone else's job is to take that information and reproduce it, in some way. And in the old school of guides through museums, it was similar to that. The docent is there telling you everything you need to know about this painting, and your job is to remember that, maybe. And they're trying to do it differently there at the museum now, and it's museums around the country for the past decade or so or longer. Instead of that style of the docent delivering the information you need to understand and appreciate the painting, it's the docent's guide or job to kind of lead a conversation and ask you questions about it, rather than the viewer ask the docent questions about it, which can happen as well as part of the conversation. But they view it as, how do you open up the painting? And instead of the painting and the docent being up here and the viewer being down here in terms of stature or value, how do you even out the playing field so that visitors feel like they can connect to the artwork and continue to be in a relationship with it and not feel like they're of lesser value in the relationship, so to speak. They feel welcomed at the museum and they want to keep coming back to participate in the art experience. So that's a long setup for the strategy that they're using to try to cultivate that kind of experience. They call it visual thinking strategies, or VTS. Somebody came up with this 10, 15 years ago. And it's very simple, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily easy. What you do is you look at the painting first, right? And you give people time to look at the painting. And after they've looked at the painting for a bit, you just ask them, well, you could ask them any question, really, but a good one would be something like, what do you see here? What do you think's going on here? And then you try to anchor that or tie what they say into the painting itself. Well, what do you see that makes you say that? What do you see in the painting that makes you say what you just said? What evidence do you see, or what prompted that response in the painting? And then you could go on to continue the conversation. Well, what else might we see here? Something like that. What else is there? What else does anyone see? So you start applying that to not just paintings, but your whole life, you know, then you're doing some yoga. It's like, well, what am I experiencing? What do I see? Well, what makes me think that? You know, what evidence do I see that supports my response or my reaction? And then, well, okay, if that's true, what else is true? What else do you see that might be true about it? So it's interpreting the art just like you would interpret a myth or any other experience that you're hearing or experiencing. It's like, okay, here's some sensory information. What do I make of it? What else could be made of it? And you start thinking about these visual thinking strategies, applying them to whatever you're seeing or experiencing throughout your day. Like something makes you angry. Well, what am I seeing? Well, I'm seeing this jerk pull in front of me in line or try to cut me off on the highway or something. Well, what makes you think that he's a jerk? Yeah. Well, okay. What else do you see? What else can you experience here? Yeah. So you could start to apply that in that little turn that you could do. And suddenly you're doing yoga, you know, and it gets to that idea of Rajanika, of certain yoga systems that says one thing is always more than one thing. You know, one thing is not just one thing. It can be more than one thing. So you're starting to apply that kind of teaching in a practical way. Well, what do I see? Well, I see this one thing. Are you sure you see just, you know, what makes you see that one thing? Then, well, what more is possible from that one thing? What else can you see or experience here? So then you've got the whole universe open to you, you know, perhaps. So look around you. Look to your left, look to your right, and maybe pause in each of those directions and notice what you see. And maybe notice more than one thing as you're looking in that direction. And try that looking up and down as well as around. Look at more than one thing. That's our simple way of applying that this morning. And you could do that with sound too. Maybe close your eyes for a moment and notice what you hear. And notice how you assign probably a meaning or an interpretation to that information, that sensory data. Notice if you hear something else than just one thing. And then turn your attention to your breath and begin to observe your breath. What do you notice when you're observing your breath? What more is there?